Shakur, and I was born and raised in the United States. I am a descendant of Africans who were kidnapped and brought to the Americas as slaves. I spent my early childhood in a racist, segregated South. I later moved to the northern part of the country, where I realized that black people were equally victimized by racism and oppression. I grew up and became a political activist, participating in student struggles, the anti-war movement, and most of all, in the movement for the liberation of African Americans in the United States. I later joined the Black Panther Party, an organization that was targeted by the COINTELPRO program, a program that was set up by the Federal Bureau of Investigation
J. Edgar Hoover
to eliminate all political opposition to the U.S. government's policies, to destroy the black liberation movement in the United States, to discredit activists, and to eliminate potential leaders. Under the COINTELPRO program, many political activists were harassed, imprisoned, murdered, or otherwise neutralized. As a result of being targeted by COINTELPRO, I, like many other young people, was faced with the threat of prison, underground, exile, or death. The FBI, with the help of local police agencies, systematically fed false accusations and fake news articles to the press, accusing me and other activists of crimes we did not commit. Although in my case the charges were eventually dropped or I was eventually acquitted, the national and local police agencies created a situation where, based on their false accusations against me, any police officer could shoot me on sight. It was not until the Freedom of Information Act was passed in the mid-'70s that we began to see the scope of the United States government's persecution of political activists.
That is our good sister Assata Shakur that you are hearing from at the top of this broadcast. Everybody, welcome to the page. This is your host here, Lord of Lips, with another installment of a live stream. As you guys know the routine, please like and subscribe, hit the bell, follow the channel, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. But yeah, as you guys see here, this is Assata Shakur that we're hearing from. This is through I think this was on Democracy Now! Where she had connections and she sent that message on through. And let me see if I can get back to what. Let me unshare, stop sharing. But yeah, that's our good sister Assata Shakur. So as we know, that news came out yesterday or 2 days ago that she did transition a couple of days ago while she was still granted political asylum in Cuba, in Havana. So I just want to, start the top of the show by giving her the family condolences and giving her just doing her propers, because this is somebody who is really, really vital and really, really important to the liberation of our people and our struggle. And she's played a key role and has been an essential figure into our struggle and into our story. Now, for those of you who don't know, Assata Shakur, she was originally part of the Black Panther movement and then turned into the Black Liberation Army, Black Liberation Organization. And then she kind of helped spearhead different movements over the time, even the new Black Panthers and different things like that, although she had fled to Cuba for political asylum at that point. So in 1973, she was indicted on alleged false charges of shooting and executing a New Jersey police officer during a shootout, where she did receive 2 gunshots to her shoulder and to her back. And the forensic evidence showed that it was impossible for her to have shot this officer. They alleged that this was a frame tactic because the officers did not kill her as they was ordered to do, due to the COINTELPRO, which was for them to stop that Black Panther movement. So they were not successful in killing her with the 2 shots. So they framed her for the murder of this cop, and she was given life in prison, like plus 30 years or some shit. And we know in 1979 she did escape prison and she fled to Cuba. And this was always the stuff of legends. Many of you probably heard the stories about Assata and her going to Cuba. And if you guys haven't, obviously it's stuff of legend. You should read her book, check out some documentaries. Now, some may ask, when you hear that last name Shakur, you immediately think Tupac Shakur. And this was a close relative of Tupac Amaru Shakur. If you guys don't know, this was his actual godmom, and then it was his aunt. It was Mutulu's sister. Mutulu being Tupac's stepfather, who actually raised him. So she had close proximity to Tupac. However, she was already, by the time Tupac was little and born, she was already dealing with this whole case in 1973. He was born in 1971. Tupac had shouted her out on songs, on outros, and he had a song regarding her. We know Common. There's a lot of hip hop artists who have given her props and shouted her out. Now we know her as being listed on the FBI's most wanted list. She's the only female still to this day to be listed in the top 10 most wanted list fugitives on the FBI list. She was given a bounty of originally $1 million on her head, and then that was doubled by Barack Obama in 2013 to $2 million to either bring her back or shoot her on sight. But our government wanted their hands on Assata Shakur. So she did remain in political asylum and she was extradited for over 40 years in Cuba. And the reason why she's such a shining example, and I know, there's some people out there that's going to be like, oh my God, she's accused of shooting and killing a police officer. Like, why are we celebrating her? But again, that's a topic for another day. She's remained her innocence in that crime, and the fact of the matter is, in our community, we know one or two things. You die, you meet the grave, or you go to prison. We don't know too many people that have actually escaped the grips of that vicious cycle that we exist in. So when you read about Assata Shakur, it's almost like folklore. It's almost like legend. It's almost unbelievable that somebody that was charged with this crime and was actually watched and protected by the FBI government for all these years was able to escape. She was a high-profile person before Tupac ever existed. You know what I'm saying? So for her to be able to escape and get extradition into Cuba is a really, really, really big deal. And the government, the FBI wasn't too fond of that story because, again, it kind of showcased people's ability to be able to do stuff like that if you had the proper tools, the proper education, and the proper wherewithal to be able to accomplish those things. It showed that was possible. Now, she did write Fidel Castro and was granted that political asylum by Fidel Castro. So we do got to tip our hat to Fidel Castro. I know a lot of people, especially when you think of the United States government and our Western imperialism and our power structure, that Fidel Castro isn't a name that's written so well about. However, for us to see that this man did grant her political asylum and he refused to turn her in and turn her over to the FBI for all of these years is something to be commended. I mean, seriously. And I mean, there's so much that I really can think about with Assata Shakur. I've always followed Assata Shakur, being a huge Tupac fan. I've always kind of followed up on that case because a lot of people do not understand really the lineage that Pac came from. They don't understand. I think people are starting to see. They're like, oh shit, holy shit, this was Tupac's aunt, that we're talking about here. Yeah. And like I said, these people had power and ranks before Tupac ever existed. Tupac was a star in and of itself, but his family was on terror watch list. His family was like enemy number one, enemy of the state number one before Tupac ever existed. And I don't think a lot of people really realize that. Tupac was literally, and he said this in multiple records and interviews and stuff, he was marked for death. And people think that's just people that think that's just hyperbole, and that's just rap, you know what I'm saying? But no, Tupac was literally watched and protracted for years, starting from birth. And if you know a little bit about Pac's story, Afeni, his mother, who was a big member of the Black Panther Party as well, and closely approximated with Assata Shakur, Tupac's mother was in prison when she was baking Tupac. You know what I'm saying? Like Tupac was a prison baby. Like Afeni almost had Tupac in prison. She just had beat her trial right before, I mean, literally right before Tupac ended up being born. But while she was baking him in her oven, he was in prison with her for a long time, and she was on trial. You guys should look up the Panther 21 case. It's one of the most craziest cases you would ever read about, and it's another story of folklore. You know what I'm saying? Just seeing the fact that Mrs. Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mother, was accused of trying to set off bombs in Harlem in New York to government buildings and stuff like that. And they were accused, and she was given 156 indictments. And come on, Dad, I'm gonna call you back in a second. But she actually represented herself and was acquitted of all charges. And it's one of the only cases that this has ever been done where Afeni Shakur represented herself in a federal trial and got off, and she beat the cases. So again, knowing this history, her son was marked for death. Her son was literally marked for death. The FBI literally followed them, Tupac's whole entire life. I'm talking about from day one, from him dropping out of the womb. He was literally marked for death. He was on FBI dossiers and followed and protracted and stuff like that, because he was a part of a liberation movement. He was birthed out of this liberation movement with Afeni Shakur, Mutulu Shakur, Assata Shakur, Seiko, all these different people. So when you guys understand that, it helps you kind of bring this story a little bit together more on just how powerful Tupac actually was within the industry that he played a hand in with film and entertainment and music, that our FBI was protracting him and watching him the whole time. So when you see different interviews of Pac, and when you see hear different songs of Pac and stuff like that, understand that it raised a little bit of ears, not like a T.I., not like a Ho, not like a Kendrick, not like a Nas, not like a Common, not like a Talib Kweli, not like a KRS-One. I'm talking about like real live raising ears for our FBI and the government because of who he is, who his family was, and what they did to the government. His aunt had already escaped. You know what I'm saying? His aunt had already been on the FBI watch list for decades at this point. You know what I'm saying? His mom already got off on one of the craziest trials of all time. His stepfather freed his aunt, broke her out of prison, held up guards, fled to Cuba. You know what I'm saying? His family is full of political prisoners, people that was given life sentences as political prisoners in the United States, on Rikers Island and different places like that. So again, people really need to understand this. And also, like I said, people should go out there, read the Assata Shakur book, and also follow up on some of her documentaries. Also, I would highly recommend people to watch the Dear Mama on FX documentary, because they covered a lot of this. And I know Pac had a lot of beef with the Hughes brothers and stuff during his living days, but I will say Allen Hughes did do a pretty damn good job. I know that that documentary won some awards and stuff like that, but they do a really good job illustrating Pac's connection to the Black Panther movement and the Black Liberation movement, and then the new Black Panther movement. So I highly recommend people to go watch that, because it's very, very vital. And I know there's a lot of people out there there's a lot of people out there that do love Pac. But there's also a lot of people out there that are under this impression that Pac was either a poser, he was an actor, he was a ballerina, all these different things. But y'all really don't understand his story. You don't understand that this was basically a teen or a young male that was literally marked for death from jump, born into a liberation movement. For his whole family is full of revolutionaries, like literally. And then, with the COINTELPRO and J. Edgar Hoover's attempt to break up the Black Panther movement and all these Black nationalist movements, his family was then terrorized, watched, and criminalized, couldn't get jobs, all these blacklisted and all that stuff. His mom fell hard onto drugs, and it kind of divided his family. And that's when you get songs like Dear Mama and these different songs like that. But Pac was like a castaway. He ran away, he turned to the streets after that. So yeah, there is a history of Pac where he was in ballet and arts and all that stuff like that. But you guys got to understand, as he was evolving and stuff like that, his family was under attack by our federal government, and he fell victim to the streets. He moved to Oakland and I mean, all different types of places, and was raised literally. He was a nomad. He was going from place to place to place while his mom was doing fucking drugs, and so fucked up because here she was, Assata Shakur, a member of the Black Panther movement, a big figure, and now here she is struggling, no lights on, and that movement had kind of lost some of its legs during the time. So she was really, really, really struggling at this point in time in her life. So she turned to drugs. Obviously, this has an adverse effect on somebody like Tupac Shakur. You know what I'm saying? A young male growing up without a father figure. Well, his father, at the time, he thought his father, Billy Garland, was actually dead because that's what his mom told him. Not until recent did we find that he was actually alive. But his father that he knew, Mutulu Shakur, was a political prisoner as well, and he was facing life in prison behind bars. So all these people that raised him and stuff was actively being worked on by the FBI at the time. And his mom was on drugs. The Black Panther movement had died off at this time. And here he is, you know what I'm saying? So he was, he turned to the streets. He turned to hip hop. He turned to selling drugs and all these different things. So again, it's really, really vital to understand this part of his story to really get the full grasp on the power that he wielded. But I say all that to say this story but this story is centered with Assata Shakur, who was successfully extradited and able to make her way to Cuba, Havana, Cuba, and get political asylum from Fidel Castro. And if she's able to write Fidel Castro and be granted political asylum, you don't think that Fidel Castro was aware of Tupac? You know what I'm saying? You don't think he was aware of her nephew, her godson, who was the most, prominent male figure, male voice of the time in the 80s, in the 90s. So Pac having these kind of connections and stuff like that to foreign governments and foreign dictators and leaders and stuff like that made him a very, very, very powerful and dangerous person. Assata Shakur wrote many letters to the popes, back to the United States government. And I just highly recommend everybody to kind of read her story. And not only her story, we should read about Geronimo Pratt, Mutulu Shakur, all of these different political prisoners and people that fled. They hijacked planes, got into France. They did some crazy shit during the Black liberation movement. Crazy things. And then, in the 90s, we started with the new Black Panthers, and that movement tried to get up on his feet with Khalid Muhammad and different members. I think Crystal runs it now. Crystal Muhammad runs the new Black Panthers. But Tupac was a chairman, the national chairman for the new Black Panther movement. In fact, here, I got some of his speeches. Let me see if I can find some of his speeches, because hopefully it helps people kind of understand a little bit of this narrative arc. Here we go. So here's Tupac and Dr. Khalid Muhammad.
Y'all gonna think something wrong with me because I'm losing. If I curse, give me, but we curse. So they told me to watch my language. Fuck that. He did tell y'all about
look at Dr. Khalid. Look, Dr. Hey, Khalid was just like, hold on, Pac. See, Pac was a wild card, though. Pac was a real wild card. He was tapped into, the most powerful people in our communities. When you think of the Black Panthers, when you think of the Southern Christian League, when you think of not so much the NAACP, although they do have some power and stuff like that, but I'm talking about some grassroots Black movements, the Nation of Islam, the 5 Percenters, all these different movements and stuff. The Morris Temple Science, Garvey's movement. Pac was connected with these people, and these people are usually in our community the most powerful people in the Black community.
Tell y'all about my mama and the Panthers, but let me tell you where I ended up. My mama was a crack addict. I ended up in Baltimore on welfare with no lights on in high school. I got disdain for a lot of motherfuckers. Cause I'm gonna tell you, when my mama started cracking and I was by myself, fucking struggle if you don't take care of your babies. Not just yours, but the other soldiers, What about all these soldiers sitting in jail? Where their kids at? Don't none of you motherfuckers give a fuck about them. Little Natasha got a bullet on motherfucking back and they nailed one of y'all to a motherfucking death.
So you gotta see that this is an angry team right here. and I don't know if I'm not able to get messages, but this is an angry team, and people don't take that into account. This is a young man who was basically just given the keys to a liberation movement for his people, and he's pissed off because a lot of the leaders, a lot of the people that he looked up to and kind of got a lot of his game from kind of fell short at this time.
If you a lawyer, if you a man, if you an African American, 3,000 niggas for these motherfuckers. Walk around with Natasha in me. I walk around with Fred Hampton and Bobby Hunt in me. And when these motherfuckers press my button and I blow up, it ain't me. Fuck that nigga put on a police uniform in 1993. Fuck that. When the shit jump up, you still got that motherfucker on your asses out. Cause niggas is on in 1993. If I go by myself and I die and you motherfuckers bury me, I swear before God I will haunt every single one of you punk ass motherfuckers. Do you feel me?
And that's Pac, man. He's just angry. He's just lashing out really at the time. And you hear him talk about Fred Hampton, who was 21, and just all these different great people. Hold on, where's it at? Hold on. Oh, what I wanted to say was you got to remember, man, this was 1993, so that makes Pac 22 at the time. He's 22 years old. You know, what were you doing at 22? How was I thinking at 22? Could I lead a nationalist movement at 22? Could I be a spokesperson of a nationalist movement at 22? Of course you could, and of course I couldn't. You know what I'm saying? So people need to offer that grace and offer that understanding to a man that was only 22 at the time, that was literally from birth given these keys, and followed by the enemy of that movement. You know, that's all. But yeah, shout out to Assata Shakur, man. I wanted to get on here, really say my piece on her. Again, I recommend her book. I recommend her documentaries. I recommend the Democracy Now! Interview. Shout out to Democracy Now! For publishing that interview with Angela Davis, and then her lawyer, Assata's lawyer that represented her. Give me 1 second. Hello. I know they're here. I'm coming. I'm in the middle of a stream.
I'm at work. I need cheddar cheese and coconut. That's all I was.
There's no way. I just brought 2. There's no way.
We got half a bag.
All right. Let me call you back.
Okay.
All right. Zach said, it's amazing how much the world has changed since 1993. I wonder what Tupac would think of the world now. Well, I'm sure he wouldn't be too thrilled. I'm sure he wouldn't be too thrilled of it. He wouldn't be too thrilled with the state of the world and probably the progress in which we've made or lack thereof in the world either. But yeah, I mean, again, Assata Shakur, just all of those people, man. We have to do a better job. And I'm talking to the Black community. We have to do a better job at not waiting on other people to write our fallen soldiers, our people's narrative for them. We got to understand that these stories are not going to be told. You're not going to learn about these people in school. In fact, I have another video. I have another video here. He said, hold on.
Reading music business.
Here's the Black Liberation Movement right here. You see him?
Please, this kid to some. Please, talk. Let them know, because he's not going to tell them about Assata Shakur.
He's 20 here.
He's not going to tell them about Assata Shakur.
Assata Shakur is a sister who I feel America made a target of. Now, this is unusual because she's a sister and she was in the foreground, not in the back, helping brothers get their proper justice. And then there's Mutulu Shakur, who's being prosecuted because he tried to help her get out of jail because this country wanted to put her away. And y'all didn't even hear about it, you know what I'm saying?
Tupac was born into a family that required him to be a leader, and there was a real plan for Tupac Panther Party, which was a continuation of the Black Panthers.
TUPAC.
Now, how long have you been national chairman of the New African Panthers?
Matter of fact, about what, a week?
A week.
To be one of many spokespersons. And because right now, it is almost impossible for you not to see how strong rap has gotten. Because our youth and some of our adults, their ear is pinned to rap music right now. And if you really want to get our message out, you really need to start using our methods, you know what I'm saying? Even in our history.
So again, that's Pac at 19, 20 years old. You know what I'm saying? And it's just really tough. It's always tough for me because it's just really, really hard to get this through to people. Like I seen something a while ago, and it was probably from like the other 98% on Facebook, the Facebook page. But it was like, you watch Hunger Games and you sided with the resistance. You watch The Matrix, you sided with the resistance. You watch this, you sided with the resistance. So why in everyday life, like why in today's understanding in society do you not side with the resistance? And a lot of people have a hard time kind of capitulating that because they struggle with stepping back from and being objective in the fact that we exist in the most powerful government that has ever existed in the last 2,000 years, maybe 4,000 years. And there's a lot of struggle and strife that goes on. And there's a lot of people that have had to fight for their, you just think of the whole lineage of the whole history of the United States, 3/5 of a man, the Native Americans, different movements, women's right, the women's suffrages, and just the different movements all throughout the United States history. And it always leans towards oppressed people trying to fight for equal rights or liberate people and different things like that. So this country is embedded with a long history and a long list of not providing proper rights for certain people and different things like that. Now, I'm not saying it's all bad. The United States has a lot of good to it. The United States has done a lot of good, but a lot of times, more than not, there is a lot of oppressed people fighting for the rights in the United States. And it's like that all across the globe. So people have a hard time taking a step back and realizing that and partnering or offering grace to the people that are actually fighting for those liberations for people. You think of the Black Panthers, they don't get written well about. They don't get talked well about in American history. We don't get taught about Bobby Seale and Fred Hampton and Angela Davis, and we don't get taught about these people. You know what I'm saying? You think of the abolitionist movement. We don't get taught really about these people. You think of the women's rights suffrage. We don't get taught about these people. You think of the new Black Panthers. You think of the African liberation, the New African, the Southern Martin Luther King's movement, the Noble Drew Ali's movement. You do not get taught properly about these movements. And why would that be? You know what I'm saying? Because these movements directly oppose our government's thumb that they've had on oppressed people. So, again, these things are always tough for me because it's very, very hard for me to get that across to our people, that they just for some reason can't see it like that. They usually work along with the enemy to help suppress our people. You got people out there that badmouth Pac and badmouth some of these different movements and stuff like that, not knowing that these movements have been on the front line and have been the only thing separating you from getting your ass whooped at the hands of a really, really, really corrupt and crooked government. So that's really all I got there. I want to say shout out to Assata Shakur. May you finally rest in peace, that you lived your life, your last 50 years of life, semi-free or not in the United States possession. Barack Obama, you're a sick bastard for doubling that bounty on Assata Shakur, $2 million. And they wanted her alive or dead. And anybody could have shot her on sight and gotten away with it. So I also want to say shout out to Mr. Fidel Castro and the Cuban government for keeping her safe for all these years. And may God rest her soul. Rest in peace to Mutulu Shakur, who I think passed away 2 years ago as well. Mutulu passed away. Geronimo passed away. We know Pac passed away. Afeni passed away maybe 7 years ago. So it's really a somber thing for me because, like I said, I followed the Shakurs for a long time. And just to know that a lot of what they put in, a lot of legwork and stuff, it's not dead what they put in, but a lot of those members of those movements do lie dead today. And it's really, really sad, man. Shout out to Afeni, shout out to Mutulu, shout out to Assata, and then shout out to the prodigal son that they birthed out of that movement, which is Tupac Amaru Shakur. He was the product of that movement. And that's why he was the way he was. That's exactly why Tupac was as impactful as he is. That is exactly why he's who we think he is, which is the most impactful hip hop, the greatest hip hop artist of all time. And it's really, really not even close. If you guys think about comparing anybody to him, just do yourself a solid. It's not even close. For him to be able to provide us at 25 with the movies he did, the interviews he did, the speeches he did, the music he did, just as an all-around artist, it's just not remotely close. And when you couple that with the fact that he really had the weight of the world on his shoulder and he was being protracted and watched, and then you think about the cases that he was fighting and the fake rape cases and then the shooting at Quad's studio and the shooting again and being followed by the FBI and all that. Do you guys understand why those things were being done? Do you guys finally realize who this man was and what kind of target he actually had on his back? He was not worried about street politics, although he did end up getting wrapped up in a lot of that. That was not where his fear or where his eyes laid. His eyes was laid on the federal government, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, following him, wiretapping him, and doing what they did to Bobby Seale and Fred Hampton and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and all these other great leaders. Tupac was another iteration of that as well. So, yeah, rest in peace to Assata Shakur, man. The song for Assata by Common is just stuck in my head. It's on For Water Like Chocolate. It's a song for Assata, Common and CeeLo Green, man. And there was hands off Assata movements and stuff like that for a long time. Rest in peace to that wonderful, wonderful sister, soldier of this movement. Rest in peace to Assata Shakur. Switching gears, I don't have much time. I got to get going. I'll cover one more topic. Let me see. Oh, what do we want to cover? You guys let me know. We could talk about this weird ass Erica Kirk situation, man. I'm ready to just go ahead and just put peel the banana cover back on the Erica Kirk situation. I ain't gonna lie. I just want to tell the truth. I've been trying to give it some time. I've been trying to give it a few more weeks, but there's more and more weird shit going on, man. And now everybody's talking about this whole movie with Nicolas Cage, where he plays a character, Charles Kirkland. He gets shot in the neck as a political movie and all these different things. It just, this whole thing. And the thing is, like, we're going to run the risk. Zach said Tupac was almost in Star Wars. He wanted to play Mace Windu when he died, then Samuel L. Jackson got the part. I'm glad Tupac did not get that role. Unfortunately, he died. He said, you got 3 minutes left for sure. Football, I got 3 minutes left. But government shutdown on the horizon. Yeah, Congress is going to vote here soon. But, they do this every year. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. I think that they're money laundering and doing different things. Snake Eyes. I need to watch it soon. Yeah, that's the movie. It's called Snake Eyes. And apparently everybody's drawing a lot of correlations between the movie Snake Eyes, who is starred with Nicolas Cage, and this Charlie Kirk situation. So I'll have to watch Snake Eyes. I'm not too wild about because if you look, people are going really, really, really far into these conspiracies with this Charlie Kirk situation. And again, what's really sad about it is kind of like what gets lost on it. And I've said this last episode, is that the fact that man got assassinated, shot in the neck in front of his kids and wife. So that always gets lost on it because we're like all into this rabbit hole, and just the level of distrust that we have in our government and and just the whole investigation, Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and all these different people who have just butchered this all along the way. It just goes to show that the American people have lost all faith in anything that our government tells us. They can't sell us shit. So people start to look at movies and different wormholes that they go into to try to draw the dots and connect the dots for this whole case and shit like that. It's very, very, very unfortunate. But yeah, I'm not too wild about his wife. I told you guys the speech that she gave on Turning Points USA, the first speech she gave after his death. I know that, trust me, guys, I understand that it was more likely written for her. But it wasn't just about the fact that she was reciting it. It was just how she was reciting it. And not only that, I have been looking into her right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, because I had heard in passing that they had met. I heard they had met in Israel one time. And then I started looking into it and seeing some of her connections to the beauty pageants and different things, like that she was kind of already within the entertainment industry before Charlie met her. And I started to speculate a little bit about that. I'm like, shit is just a little bit fishy to me. And, you know, I've told you guys before, and I'm going to leave on this note, and I'm going to have to come back tomorrow or something, because I really do got to get going and football's on. But a lot of these celebrities, all of the celebrities, I mean, 9.9 times out of the 10, celebrities are often given handlers, whether that be through your agent, whether that be through your manager, whether that be through your wife. A lot of these people are, we know that, you know, in the Bible, you know, most powerful man in the Bible, he was taken down by a woman, you know, and a lot of time, I mean, you think of Kanye West and the Kardashians and who they are and who Kanye West told us they are and stuff like that. A lot of times, powerful people that control a lot of or dictate a lot of that space and that market share, they're given handlers. They're given somebody in their team, in their circle, who they're given a Judas. They're given somebody in their circle that doesn't allow them to go too far. And I'm starting to think that this handler was Miss Erica Kirk. I hate to use my platform to say it. I hate to say it, man, but I'm not rolling. I'm not rolling with her Turning Points USA interviews. I'm not rolling with her sitting on the show 2 days ago and speaking. And it's not even about the timing of what she's doing and all that surface level shit. It's about how she's doing it. And I know how to, I feel like I'm an empath. So like I'm usually pretty good at registering pain and feeling somebody else's pain. I mean, I can't connect with her at all in no circumstance, zero circumstance. And this is somebody who just lost her husband in one of the most craziest thing that we've seen on with our own two eyes on camera in this century in front of his kids. And she's not even able to draw crocodile tears. You know what I'm saying? She's not even able to make me feel anything about the situation. So I'm not rolling, but I'll have to cover it more in depth. There's a lot more that I want to go into as far as her connections to different things and different entities. We know that a lot of donors on Charlie Kirk's end was pulling out and trying to get him to change course. We talked about that. We know Bibi Netanyahu's involvement as far as him giving those weird series of tweets right after Charlie Kirk's death and different things like that. And now they purchased TikTok, and it's just everything stinks of high heaven. And I just get so exhausted of having to come on this stream and point the finger at the monster and take the mask off like this is an episode of Scooby-Doo and say, like, this is who it is, y'all. But I mean, I get really so tired of it. Yeah, you know, they purchased TikTok. Charlie Kirk lies dead. Turning Points USA is turned over to those people. You got Ben Shapiro, who is an agent of those people, trying to take over Turning Points USA. It's just a mess. It's really just a mess. But yeah, I'll probably hop on here tomorrow. I want to talk more about the TikTok purchase. I want to talk more about this energy crisis with the electrical grid, with the emergence of these new data centers that are coming out. Ohio was granted 2 new data centers are coming to Ohio, which I think they say the one data center is like the capacity, holds the capacity of one small city as far as the energy grid goes in mining that energy. And it takes a lot of water. It takes a reservoir's worth of water and a small city's worth of electricity to run these mine these data centers. So Ohio has 2 data centers. I think there's 2 in Texas, 1 in Mexico or something. There's 7 new data centers coming. So I want to talk about that and kind of the trickle down effects. Trickle down effects is going to have on your power and potential brownouts and blackouts. It's just really weird to me how, you know, Trump steers away from EVs, electrical vehicles, and says that we don't have the infrastructure and all that. But, you know, he signs the $500 billion Stargate project, and then here are these data centers are popping up to mine this artificial intelligence. It's really weird how that works. But I want to talk about more of that in depth, and let me else see what I had on this. We got more on the Epstein thing. It's crazy, man. Somebody's playing Saul with the United States government. First, they go. I think Trump meets with Prince. He meets with King Charles, and they go over to Britain or go over to UK. And as they get off out of the as they get out of their car, they're greeted with a big poster, building size poster of Trump holding hands with Epstein. So that was like 2-3 weeks ago, and I thought that was funny. But then, to top it off, somebody just anonymously plants a statue in front of the White House with Trump and Epstein holding hands, doing this like Very Odd parent stance, and holding hands with the birthday signature and all this different shit. So I think somebody's playing Saul with America, and I think that that's really funny. We'll cover that. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about this UN speech that Netanyahu gave, where he had to fly, obviously, to the United States. I think he meets at the White House tomorrow, Monday, again for the 4th time. I don't know why in the fuck he keeps getting invited to the White House. But during his UN General Assembly speech, a lot of members of the United Nations walked out before he got to speak. So if I was any of those people on that list, y'all watch their back. Any of those people that walked out of the UN speech, I would say watch their back. But we'll cover all this either tomorrow or Tuesday, because I do got to get going. I appreciate everybody for tuning in for this little portion. I know it's a little quick 40-minute episode. But yeah, I just wanted to really get on here. I felt like since day one, since the news of Assata, I really felt compelled to kind of get on stream and kind of talk about her and her impact and their family's impact on society, really. So yeah, rest in peace to Assata Shakur. This is your host, Lord of Lips, and I am